we were just exuberant, because we thought it was fun. You know, lights going off, aircraft going over, and little big bangs suddenly. To boys, that's fun. And if you're born into it, that's all you know.
Also wenn ich die Filme meines Vaters heute anschaue, die gerade in der Kriegszeit gedreht wurden, dann bin ich manchmal doch überrascht, ja, wie schlimm das eigentlich alles aussah. Weil ich habe ja als Kind eigentlich keine so schlimmen Erinnerungen.
This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Families and friends have discovered these films and they've started to bring them in great numbers. And I think what's extraordinary is something like this captured those intimate moments of wartime domestic history, reflecting everything that was going around in a community or in a home, from what the children were wearing to how the streets were looking, the architecture, all those aspects of life during wartime that government films and propaganda weren't concentrating on. I mean, I know we think we've got sort of small cameras now, but, you know, it's all in here. So film, wound up, no batteries, simple winding mechanism, very straightforward lens and viewer, and off you go. There's a woman called Kathleen Lockwood, and she shot in black and white children in her village putting on their gas masks. This would have been done for a number of different reasons. One, to capture that actual moment, but two, to project it back as, in terms of, not exactly propaganda, but that way of moulding together a community and saying, look, our children are doing this, what are we doing for the war effort?
Oh, it's a real one. Ah, child size. Oh, I remember that smell. Oh, God, that brings it back. That smell. Smell of rubber. I suppose people pay for that these days. You can cut that. They come out this idea in a Mickey Mouse gas mask. Now, the American ones were actually shaped like a Mickey Mouse, you know, natural with ears and everything. Ours ones was done in a sort of surreal way, but this is a Mickey Mouse gas mask, so you weren't scared. But I used to love wearing it when you go up to get the chickens. You used to go up the chickens to get eggs. But they're all events from the war and the wartime years that I experienced. And it's nice to get them down as paintings. There is a naivety about it, which I like to keep, because I want to keep it back into that childlike state, where everything's nice, you know, and everything's, you know, everything's safe. It's a child's playground at war, actually, because if you're born into it, you don't know the fear. This is the Anderson shelter, the outside shelter. And we also cram in there. There's a little grandmother pot, because no outside toilets in the shelters. And that's where we used to spend our nights if the bombing was pretty bad.
Also, Wolfgang Süß, das war der alte Filmprojektor, mit dem er dann die Filme gezeigt hat, projiziert hat. Das ist ein ganz altes Stück noch aus der Vorkriegszeit, mit stabile Mechanik. Hier die Optik, ja, zum Drehen. Dann konnte man die ganze Sache hier rausschwenken. Ja. Und relativ praktisch, so konnte man das zusammenlegen und dann wegtragen. Ja.
In Stuttgart gab es auch einen Amateur-Schmalfilmclub. Dort war er Mitglied und hat dort eigentlich auch das, ja, für unsere Augen heute auch professionelle Filmen gelernt.
Meine Mutter war sehr begeistert, dass mein Vater dieses Hobby hatte und hat meinen Vater beraten, wie gewisse Szenen vielleicht am besten gefilmt werden könnten.
Im Stollenbau war er auch maßgeblich beteiligt und zwar zuständig für die Elektroinstallation, natürlich aus seinem Berufsbild heraus. So hat er den Stollenbau Zug um Zug im Film festgehalten. Das hat er einfach festhaltenswert gefunden. Und wir sind heute froh, dass wir dieses Material noch haben, um überhaupt das nachvollziehen zu können, unter welchen Umständen dieser Stollen damals in den Berg getrieben wurde, um die Bevölkerung zu schützen, um auch unser Leben damit zu schützen für die Straßengemeinschaft.
Dann hat man sich stundenlang die Filme angeschaut, die mein Vater eben in der Kriegszeit gedreht hat. Und es war für uns Kinder immer unwahrscheinlich spannend und war natürlich auch wunderschön. Da musste man nicht so früh ins Bett gehen. Und deshalb habe ich eben an die Filme ganz hervorragende Erinnerungen.
Sehr aufregend, also Filmstar zu sein. Und nun geh noch mal da längs und nun komm noch mal her und lauf mal auf mich zu. Und fand mich da so wichtig und fand das also ganz toll. Mein Vater ist gelernter Uhrmacher, hat ein Juweliergeschäft in Hamburg Und als wir Kinder geboren wurden, hat er begonnen zu filmen. Er hat 16 mm gefilmt, die damals übliche Breite des Films. Und dann, wenn die Filme dann entwickelt wurden, die wurden weggeschickt und kamen dann und nun durften wir das erste Mal gucken.
Die Prozedur, wenn der Projektor aufgestellt wurde und dann verdunkelt wurde, die Leinwand wurde hochgezogen, das war immer eine große Aktion. Wenn ich das mit heute vergleiche, so eine DVD reingeschoben und dann, das hat nicht mehr so dieses Feeling, das ist nicht mehr so ein Erlebnis heute im Vergleich zu damals.
It really started when I was a very small lad, and my parents bought me a toy cinematograph projector, which was absolutely magic to me, the magic of the movies, I suppose.
We were sent to a hall where people came to pick us. I was standing there in the line, very miserable, and Mrs. Powell picked me, who was the billeting officer. And I was taken back to her house, and she said, well, before you come in, we've got a dog. Now, I hadn't been used to a dog, so she said, but if you give him a piece of chocolate, then he will be your friend for life. So gingerly I put out the piece of chocolate and Rex took it, and after that we were the best of pals.
She was a conscientious girl, slightly religious. Now I seemed as though I had a sister and Mother had a little daughter, and we settled down very well together. Mother used to take her shopping, and if you look carefully in those shots, you'll see they're both carrying their gas masks.
She was lovely. I used to sit on her lap and she'd give me a cuddle, and she used to say, you're too affectionate, but perhaps that's what I was craving for from being away from home. I can remember crying in bed and crying for my nanny and my granddad and my mum and dad.
I had to leave, and I was called up into the Royal Signals. I think it helped Mother to have Marion there, because Mother had someone else there to comfort her and be comforted by.
Gosh, that was early on, wasn't it? 1st of September.
That was, well, before the outbreak of war. And this is the evacuees arriving in Malton, the old bus in the distance there.
It's lovely there how they play up for the camera a little bit, don't they? They look directly into the lens.
Yes. We got 3 from a Middlesbrough school from up in Saltburn and Redcar. They were older than us. They were 13, 14 when they came.
He filmed in colour film quite early, didn't he?
Yes, he used colour film quite early. I think he was very fortunate to be able to do that. I think he took a lot of pride in getting things right. He would pay more money than he could afford to be able to do it, really. And, you know, I liked seeing myself even on the film. You know, you looked so funny. You didn't know what you looked like, really, did you? Except in a mirror and actually moving and doing things. This is where my father was involved, placing them into their various houses and homes for the time they were here.
Do you think he had any sway over who went?
I don't know. We had such lovely girls with us that maybe he did.
Are you suspicious he picked the good ones?
Yes. Yeah. This is the girls, the evacuees, playing netball at the school where they were.
And so they joined in the school? They went to the local school?
They went to the local school up the road from where we lived and joined all the local girls and boys.
On that Sunday in 1939, we had loads of evacuees come, and we were all called in, teachers were, and we had the Liverpool evacuees, all crying for the mother. I started off with 20 children, but of course by the time I'd finished I got 80 in a class, which was pretty awful. I talked with children on my knee on occasions, you know, because they were so upset.
I think the film was made initially to show to parents and to the parents of the evacuees to illustrate that the schools were involved in wartime initiatives. We had a school garden. There were cucumbers and marrows, tomatoes, mushrooms. And the mushrooms in particular, they seemed like dinner plates to a little lad like me. And then, of course, there was the air raid shelters.
You rang the bell and the children all lined up in their different forms. They were ready for marching anywhere, our kids were. We went down across the road, we got a shelter.
I'm in one of the shots coming across towards the entrance of the air raid shelter. I'm a sort of lanky little lad in a brownish suit. I'm carrying some sort of roll or blanket under my arm and looking very, very serious and worried.
Oh, he recognised me because of my red hair. I was a pin-up girl then. Of course, everybody liked me.
Tall, slim, very attractive lady. I really fell in love, I think, with Mrs. Elworth, or Miss Kirk as she was then.
I haven't changed much, actually.
Inside the shelters, we were rather crowded, but there was certainly a sense of excitement about it. And we did pride ourselves in getting there in record time.
Huge trenches were dug actually into the playgrounds, and these concrete prefabricated structures were sunk into the ground. It's reinforced concrete with steel in, with a curved roof to give it strength. There's probably another sort of 20 inches of concrete on the top surface, just underneath the playground itself. So it would be very, very strong. And the lessons would carry on in the shelter.
We did a bit of work. You could sort of recite tables and do a bit of mental arithmetic and things like that. but often it was singing, you know. Children accept anything. They're marvellous, they are. They're very adaptable. We expected to be bombed to buggery, really, but we weren't.
There's a sequence right at the end of the film where there's a sort of formalised waste paper collection. There was an incentive to collect waste paper, which Mr. Hume devised. If you collected a certain quantity, you became a corporal. If you collected more, you became a sergeant, and so on and so on.
Da mussten wir also sehr eifrig sammeln und damit wir recht viele Früchte haben, damit viel Medizin gemacht werden kann. Und ich erinnere, dass unsere Großmutter war mit uns dort, dass sie Strümpfe gestrickt hat für die Soldaten. Da mussten wir uns aufstellen, standen wir in 3 Blöcken und in der Mitte war dann unser Direktor der Schule und hatte auch die Abzeichen, zum Beispiel das Hakenkreuz, erinnere ich, auf dem Oberarm, und der hielt sicher eine flammende Rede, aber daran erinnern kann ich mich nicht. Nur, dass mir dann also der rechte Arm auch sehr lahm wurde, weil das lange war und ich dann mal den anderen Arm genommen habe, und haben auch andere gemacht.
Zum einen waren das vergleichsweise harmlose Sachen, das, was sie vorher in anderen Jugendgruppen auch gemacht hatten, die es dann aber im Nationalsozialismus ja nicht mehr gab. Sie wanderten, sie zelteten, sie sangen gemeinsam, sie machten Handarbeiten, sie trieben Sport. Aber sie wurden auch unterschwellig mit der Rassehygiene und Rassebiologie vertraut gemacht.
Wir hatten eine Klassenlehrerin zum Beispiel, die musste, oder wie alle Lehrer mussten zu der Zeit mit Heil Hitler grüßen, wenn sie in die Klasse kamen. Und diese Lehrerin hatte immer beide Hände voll, sodass sie den Arm nicht heben konnte, um den Hitlergruß zu machen. Also daran wusste man, die ist also auch anständig und so. Und es ging uns wirklich gut in dieser Schule hier, die hier in der Nähe auch ist. Und dann kamen diese Nürnberger Gesetze, diese Rassegesetze. Selbst wir Kinder durften nicht mehr mit anderen nicht-jüdischen Kindern spielen und nicht mehr miteinander Sport treiben und diese Geschichten. Und da sagte mein Vater, also das hat keinen Zweck, sie muss in eine jüdische Schule. Und dann kam ich in eine jüdische Schule. Dadurch waren wir oft 60 Kinder in einer Klasse und es war also an ein Lehren und Lernen gar nicht zu denken, nicht wahr? Das heißt, man hat alles Mögliche getan, aber doch, es war alles nicht so richtig. Und vor allen Dingen muss man wissen, dass natürlich alle diese Kinder und auch die Lehrer nervös waren.
Die wurden nicht aufgenommen in die NS-Organisation. Es wurde so dargestellt, dass also rassisch minderwertige Menschen nur Geld kosten, dass sie unnütze Esser sind, dass sie also eine Gefahr für den Volkskörper sind.
Wir durften nicht ins Kino gehen, wir durften nicht ins Konzert gehen, wir durften nicht tanzen gehen, wir durften nicht ins Theater gehen, wir durften nicht in den Wald gehen, ja noch nicht mal ins Café gehen. Es war ja noch nicht mal möglich, sich zu treffen. Ja? Das fiel aus, die Jugend fiel aus.
It must be remembered that we are in the preliminary stage of one of the greatest battles in history, and that many preparations have to be made here at home.
My father was very inspired by Churchill. Any time Mr. Churchill was on the radio, we were hush, hush, you know, stop talking, you know, we had to be quiet and listen. He used to get very angry with us if we made any sort of noise and do this sort of thing. I'm listening, you know.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat.
I felt he was very important, and then I think we got confidence that the war would not harm us as children.
It is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might, and with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalogue of human crime. That is our policy.
Here I am, and my cousins are here with the village pond behind us and the farm. In the villages, you had this warm relationship with everybody. And this is how I remember the village, everybody pulling together, everybody doing something to help somebody else. At tea time, she said to my mother, "Mummy, I'm not going to bed tonight." And my mother said, "What do you mean you're not going to bed tonight?" "No, I'm not going to bed tonight." She said, "Jerry's going to bomb us." My mother said, "Don't be silly like you do." She kept on and on all evening. And then my mother said to her, "Well, for tonight, you go into Jeff and Reggie's bedroom, and I'll have Violet in with me. But tomorrow," she said, "we'll put all the beds into our bedroom." She said, "Then we'll all be together." But of course, tomorrow never came. Not for them. bombs hit us. My mother and I never had a scratch on us, not a scratch. Jeffrey, he was killed instantly, and then Reggie, he was killed instantly. They got Primrose out, but as soon as they got her into the ambulance, she was dead. My mother, she had the three of them buried together. She wouldn't have them separated. And, that's silly. Anyway, as she had them buried together, of course, everybody in the village turned out. I can't go on.
I didn't realise perhaps how serious it was. With the war going on, I suppose I was quite excited in a way rather than upset. Pat was nervous.
Yeah.
Pat was a bit homesick. I'm not sure about the others. Pat certainly was. I remember my mother comforting her. Pat Burns, she was absolutely lovely. My mother adored her. And she was from quite a poor background with, I think, several siblings. And we met her family and they were lovely. I think probably Vera was from quite a nice background, Vera Horn. They'd be shown, you know, the pictures that Daddy had taken of us out in the countryside and in the garden. And they were quite a bit fearful of him, the evacuees. He was quite an austere sort of man, very strict with all of us. You know, we weren't allowed to speak unless we were spoken to almost. My mother enjoyed having them, although it was hard work. I loved it because they used to look after me and as a young, you know, like a young sister. So I really did get a lot of attention from them. Obviously, their parents felt it was safe for them to go back to the Middlesbrough area. I can't believe it really was that safe, but they must have missed them and wanted them home. I missed my new playmates and new friends and new sisters as they almost became.
I was born in southeast London, Catford. I had an older sister who was about 5 years older than me and a younger brother who was born in June 1939. After we had been away for nearly 3 years, in September 1942, the bombing had died down to some extent, and so my parents decided to have Kitty and I back home. When I arrived in London, I saw bomb damage around. I was more intrigued by it. I think my sister was more shocked because, of course, she was older and could understand more about bombing and death and injuries. But to me, it was more exciting.
The bombed houses, you just go in there and just run about and smash up things because boys do that. Oh, look, this house has been smashed up. Let's smash it up some more. We'd make guns out of anything and fire and jump about. Like we played Beaux Gestes, you know, the French Foreign Legion, because we saw it in the movies on Saturday morning pictures. So you'd play the movies more than the actual war.
Companies like Woolworths saw the opportunity and would sell small tin plate steel helmets like this for little boys to play war games with. Very, very popular, and it wasn't just happening here. On the other side of the North Sea, young German children were playing exactly the same kinds of war games, but wearing their German helmets.
We were having our sandwiches, and I vaguely remember my friends and I were discussing which was the best bit of shrapnel that we'd got, when suddenly I heard a sound of a distant siren, just a bit of it, and then the noise of aero engines very, very close, and then the teacher shouting, "Get under the tables." Kitty had come running towards me. I shouted to my friends to make room for her, and then that section of the school came cascading down onto the dining area, burying us under the rubble. When this picture was taken, I would have been about there because that's where the dining area was located, where the bomb hit straight above and brought it all down. The bomb was dropped at about 12:30, soon after midday. I was buried under the rubble until about 7 o'clock at night. It wasn't realised that my left hand was pinned down. My right side was uninjured. For years I had thought that was because I was half under the trestle table. Subsequently, my brother told me that in fact Kitty was found lying on my right-hand side, shielding me from the rubble. If it hadn't been for her, I'd have been dead. She came to see me almost every day. And I said, the boy across the ward had had a girl come younger than Kitty, so if you ask sister very nicely, she can come. And then my mother walked out, and I could see her through the big window in the sister's office, and she was telling the sister, so she told me later, that she just couldn't go on any longer. She had to tell me. I can remember 2 doctors coming in and talking to other patients, and the sister coming in with my mother. And then my mother told me that Kitty was dead. And so this shot shows my father and mother in the front of the mourners. What was a particular A climax for her was that she was at Kitty's grave one day when her foster parents from Wales came. The foster mother screamed at my mother as having had Kitty home and killing her, and my mother had a complete breakdown.
It was about not moving away, it was about the whole make, do and mend, about getting on with it, about communities coming together and celebrating the fact that they were all together. And that's where children, you know, came into it in a big way. They were still being encouraged to do some of those normal events. So, for example, with the young children doing their fancy dress, and there's some great shots there of a very reluctant small boy who obviously isn't keen on being there at all, and whose overzealous mother has provided him with a costume. But the rest of the children are used to being filmed, you know, they're used to those events. And I think that's what gives these films an absolute pertinence and an emotional connection with the audience that professionally made films don't have.
It was just freedom, really. You could dress up as what you wanted. But of course, they didn't dress up as Germans. There was nothing in that category. It was the highlight sometimes of the year. It was good fun. I think the art with sack racing was that you had to get your feet in the corners, and if you got your feet in the corners, then you could move quite well. But if you didn't get your feet in the corners, then you were likely to tumble. When people had so much darkness, it was lovely to have something, you know, light to enjoy.
Also ich kann mich erinnern, dass ich sehr behütet aufgewachsen bin. Man hat vieles von uns ferngehalten, von meiner Schwester und mir. Meinen Vater kenne ich eigentlich nur in Uniform. Er war fasziniert von Film. Es war ja so, dass er ja nicht nur vom Film, sondern auch von Technik überhaupt. Wir hatten zwei Bunker in der Nähe und von da konnte man auch die Erschütterungen hören, wenn Bomben fielen. Ich weiß noch, wie man uns Kinder bei Laune halten wollte durch Singen oder durch Vorlesen von Geschichten. Ich erinnere mich auch, dass mein Vater strikt dagegen war, in den Bunker oder in den Keller zu gehen, wenn Fliegeralarm war. Dann fühlte er sich eingeengt, sagt er. Und dann stieg er oben aufs Dach und beobachtete die Flugzeuge. Und da er ja ein Technikfreak war, hatte er natürlich ein Mikrofon und wir hatten unten den Lautsprecher und dann hat er uns quasi eine Reportage geliefert. Ne?
Ich kann mich noch gut daran erinnern, dass die Sirenen, also an das Sirenengeräusch kann mich erinnern, dass wir oft nachts aus dem Schlaf gerissen wurden und dann schnell dahin rennen mussten. Da waren andere Kinder, mit denen man spielen konnte. Insofern sind die Erinnerungen nicht so ganz schrecklich, ja, erstaunlicherweise. Ich kann mich daran erinnern, dass als wir eben aus dem Bunker herauskamen, morgens, ja, um uns herum alles praktisch brannte und zerstört war. Ganz schlimme Erinnerung natürlich, als dann unsere Wohnung, in der wir wohnten, zerstört war. Als wir da hinkamen, nur noch Trümmer vor uns sahen.
In welcher Zeit wir dort gelebt haben, es ist wie wenn ein Film an mir vorbeiläuft, mit dem ich mich gar nicht so recht identifizieren kann. Dort ist einfach ein Abstand zu diesen schlimmen Geschehnissen und dort soll ich mittendrin gewesen sein. Schon schlimm, wenn ich das sehe, und dann gehen auch die Gefühle mit mir um, was mag dort die Mutter, was mögen die Eltern für Ängste ausgestanden haben mit uns, ja, um einfach das Überleben zu sichern.
Es ist ganz erstaunlich, wie gut die das eigentlich durchgestanden haben. Wir können uns das heute kaum vorstellen. Ich glaube, wenn das damalige Hitlerregime diese Filme gefunden hätte oder festgestellt hätte, dass er hier gefilmt hat, dann wäre er sofort verhaftet worden und wahrscheinlich wäre Schlimmeres passiert.
Unser Vater hat im Frühjahr 1943, als mein jüngster Bruder geboren wurde, gesagt, ich habe das Gefühl, es wird eine schlimme Zeit kommen. Ich möchte, dass ihr nicht in Hamburg seid. Und da haben meine Eltern in Niendorf an der Ostsee eine Wohnung gemietet.
Und sah überall die Ruinen. Und unsere Mutter?
Und unsere Mutter sagte,
guck da nicht hin oder geh weiter und so. Also die zog uns dann hinterher.
Ja. Guckt mal euer Brüderchen an und guckt nicht die schrecklichen Häuser an. Ja. Aber dies hier stand und dann war die Haustür hinter uns zu und es war wie immer. Mein Vater war damals in Frankreich und hat gesagt, meine Mutter hat an jeder Hand einen Jungen.
Und dann musste die Tochter weg, oder wie? Ja.
Ja, dieser Gedanke, getrennt zu sein, das war schon heftig. Also ich habe sehr Heimweh gehabt. in Nachrichten. Da stand dann, der Beschuss von London hält an. Da habe ich gedacht, ja, Gott sei Dank, ja. Durch die Zeitung mit diesem, wie hießen die noch, V2, V2-Beschuss hält an. Und dann war ich zufrieden. Aber mir konnte ich mir auch nicht konnte mir eigentlich gar nichts drunter vorstellen.
Meine Mutter, sie verstand es wahrscheinlich, das von den Kindern fernzuhalten.
Ich habe eigentlich sehr schöne Erinnerungen an Weihnachten. Woher meine Eltern den auch immer hatten, aber wir hatten immer einen Christbaum. Wir hatten in der ersten Zeit eine alte Eisenbahnanlage, ja, von Märklin.
Wir durften noch nicht in das Weihnachtszimmer hinein und erst nachdem eine Glocke geläutet hatte, haben wir das Zimmer betreten dürfen. Und für uns Kinder ist das, ich glaube, bis heute noch einfach eindrucksvoll, dieses Weihnachtszimmer.
Um die Weihnachtszeit kam der Nikolaus in den Bunker. Und diesen Nikolaus, der hat mich vor versammelter Mannschaft fertig gemacht, sage ich mal so, weil ich noch am Daumen lutschte. Ich muss so 4 Jahre gewesen sein, ich weiß es nicht mehr. Und ich habe seitdem nie wieder am Daumen gelutscht. Aber als wir dann als Entwarnung war und wir kamen wieder raus und gingen nach Hause, da lag dieser Nikolaus tot auf der Straße. Und ich meine, die Erwachsenen haben sich dann unterhalten, dass es Tiefflieger waren, die ihn erschossen haben. Und ich kann mich auch noch erinnern, dass ich als kleines Kind dann so gedacht habe, das geschieht dir recht. Es wurde der Ofen, wir hatten so einen Herd in der Küche mit Herdplatten obendrauf, wie das früher so üblich war. Der war an wohl und dann wurden alle Bilder von der Wand geholt. Adolf Hitler, der hing, weiß ich noch, in der Küche. Es wurden Fahnen verbrannt. Es kam alles das war ein fürchterlicher Gestank in der Küche.
Die erste Zeit, dass es uns dann relativ schlecht ging, weil wir wenig zu essen bekamen. Die Eltern dann auf die Schwäbische Alb gingen und Spielsachen von uns verkaufen mussten, um Brot zu bekommen und Butter, also die normalen Grundnahrungsmittel. Und da kann mich gut daran erinnern, dass zum Beispiel unsere geliebte Eisenbahn, das war also für mich ein ganz emotional wichtiges Spielzeug, dass die verkauft werden musste.
Tja, was für Gefühle. Ich habe häufig darüber nachgedacht, was auch aus mir geworden wäre, wenn wir den Krieg gewonnen hätten. Das waren damals so die Gefühle, als ich 20, 30 war, wenn ich mir die Fotos anguckte. Ne? Viel Uniform und viel Gedöns. Wahrscheinlich wäre ich auch einer geworden von denen. Ich weiß nicht.
somebody dragged a piano out on the street and they were singing and dancing. It was a joyous occasion. I knew something was up that was good, but you know, you never know. You think, oh, this is good, it's going to happen every day. And right outside our house, these big railway sleepers start to appear onto this bonfire, and it got higher and higher until it was practically as high as the house. I mean, it was fun, you know, staying up all night dancing around bonfires. It's a childhood dream, isn't it?
Well, you go to love children, don't you, when you've had them 2 or 3, 4 years? And she said, would you like me to adopt you? But I said, well, no, I love my mum and dad. But I did like her very, very much as well. When we did get home, I can remember being very, very lonely and wishing I was back at Caen. My mother said they didn't want to send us away, but it was to save our lives in case anything happened. She had the feeling I resented being sent away, but I never thought those thoughts at all.
So I do sometimes wonder what my life would have been like if I'd had brothers and sisters. Sometimes we say, oh, let's just go up and see the grave. And we like to put flowers on there that grow, really, so that they last a lot longer than just putting bunches of flowers on, you know. You've had an awful experience, but you just get on with life, don't you? You know, that's how I look at it anyway. And for children, life goes on, doesn't it?
Hier kann man stufenlos die Geschwindigkeit verändern, kann den Film vorwärts und rückwärts laufen
Das
lassen.
war für uns Kinder immer das Wichtigste und Interessanteste, wenn man den Film wieder hat rückwärts laufen lassen und die Menschen gingen alle wieder zurück.